Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Andy Cohen dodges question about disinviting Kenya Moore from RHOA reunion. Andy Cohen has faced difficult reunion moments before. From table-pounding tantrums to walk-offs that lasted so long hair and makeup had to be redone, the Bravo maestro has survived it all. But nothing prepared him for the glare of scrutiny when he was asked, point-blank, whether he had disinvited Kenya Moore from the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion. And as always, Andy didn't give a simple yes or no. Instead, he mastered the art of dodging, weaving through questions with a smile that suggested answers existed just beyond the reach of the cameras. It happened during a press junket, one of those days when Andy jumps from studio to studio, answering the same 12 questions with slightly different inflections. A host from a well-known entertainment outlet leaned forward, eyebrows raised in delicious anticipation, and tossed the question into the air like a lit match. Andy, people are talking. Did you really disinvite Kenya Moore from the RHOA reunion? A hush fell over the room. Even the network publicist, who had been scrolling through emails, froze. Andy, ever the showman, didn't flinch. He offered that signature half-smile, the one that says I know something you don't, and I'm deciding whether it's time to drop a bombshell or change the subject entirely. Well, he began slowly, the reunion is always evolving. Not an answer. Not even close. But it was enough for him to begin his dance, sidestepping the firestorm with the grace of a seasoned ringmaster. You know, he continued, the cast dynamic on Atlanta is unlike anything on television. Things change hour to hour. 1 minute someone's in, the next they're threatening to quit, and by lunchtime they're sending me heart emojis. It's a process. A clever pivot. But the interviewer wasn't satisfied. She leaned in, relentless. So, did you disinvite Kenya? Andy spread his hands as though the concept of disinviting someone was a charming idea he had never considered. We always want the biggest personalities in the room. Kenya is certainly that. There's no RHOA without Kenya Moore. I think everyone agrees. Another dodge. If Bravo ever launched a spin-off called The Art of Avoiding the Question, Andy would be the executive producer and the star. Behind the scenes, whispers had already spread. Kenya Moore, the forever provocateur whose shade could slice diamonds, had reportedly clashed with producers just weeks before the planned taping. Some claimed she leaked behind-the-scenes drama. Others said she refused to film certain scenes unless the network met her demands. One rumor insisted she threatened legal action. Another accused her of dropping last-minute footage that left the season's storyline wobbling. But the juiciest rumor said that Andy himself had personally asked producers whether they could pause Kenya's appearance. In the RHOA universe, that was tantamount to exile. Kenya, of course, didn't stay silent. She never has. She took to social media, posting cryptic comments that loyal fans immediately deciphered like CIA analysts. She reposted throwbacks from her earlier, more triumphant seasons. She hinted that someone had tried to mute her voice. She added captions about loyalty, snakes, and truth. She insisted she had nothing to hide. And she pointedly never mentioned Andy by name, which made the silence even louder. So naturally the question followed Andy like a shadow. Every press event. Every interview. Every red carpet. And every time, Andy performed another verbal sidestep. Kenya is a long-standing part of the Bravo family, he'd say. Or, the reunion is going to be explosive, trust me on that. Or, we're still finalizing details. Nothing is set in stone. And on that particular afternoon, when pressed for clarity he wasn't willing to give, he leaned back and delivered a diplomatic flourish. I value Kenya. I always have. She brings something unique to Atlanta. Wit, humor, intelligence, shade. All of it. So whatever happens because it's what's best for the franchise, for the cast, and for the fans. Again, not an answer. But the kind of statement that could be read in 100 different ways, depending on the angle and lighting. The interviewer pushed once more. So you're saying she's invited? Andy laughed lightly, the way he does when avoiding a landmine. I'm saying that the reunion will reflect the season. And we all know this season has been unpredictable. The publicist jumped in, announcing the need to wrap, effectively pulling the plug before any real confirmation could slip out. Andy, still smiling, stood up to greet the next reporter as if the question had never been asked. But once the cameras stopped, Andy's expression shifted to something more serious. He walked toward a window, hands tucked into his pockets, thinking about the Atlanta cast. Kenya was always unpredictable, but she was also ratings gold. She brought drama, laughter, chaos, vulnerability. She had a fan base that could rival cities. Disinviting her wasn't a simple choice. It was a decision with consequences. The network wanted stability. Producers wanted consistency. Andy wanted a reunion that would trend, explode, dominate social media. And that usually required Kenya seated in a sparkly gown, legs crossed, ready to deliver one-liners that would be gifts within minutes. But the truth behind the scenes was that Kenya had pushed boundaries this season in ways the production felt crossed a line. Confidential agreements. Unauthorized releases. Breaking the fourth wall too aggressively. It wasn't about one moment. It was about a pattern. And those decisions put Andy in the awkward position of balancing loyalty with responsibility. He didn't want to ban Kenya. He never said the word. But he did suggest they take a beat. He told producers to consider all the options. In RHOA speak, that meant the door wasn't locked, but it wasn't wide open either. After the press day ended, Andy returned to his office, sat in his chair, and sighed. He picked up his phone, scrolling through messages from executive producers, PR managers, and cast text threads that had become increasingly dramatic. Then he clicked on Kenya's name. Her last message had been neutral, even professional. Let me know what time we're filming the reunion pickup interviews. I want my glam team booked. He had seen it last night. He still hadn't responded. Andy tapped his fingers on the desk. He knew the moment he replied, any reply, the internet would find out. Someone would leak it. He wasn't ready. So instead, he set down the phone and whispered to no one in particular, "We'll figure it out." And that was the truth. Andy Cohen hadn't ruled out Kenya Moore. But he hadn't fully invited her, either. He was choosing ambiguity, the safest place in the middle. For now. Because in the world of Atlanta, alliances shift overnight. And if Kenya Moore wanted to reclaim her seat, she would. She always finds a way. Which is why Andy didn't answer the question. Because maybe, just maybe, he still didn't know the answer himself.